Three passengers are on board a small twin-engine plane when it develops engine problems. The pilot realizes that the plane will not be able to continue its flight over the mountains. With no place to land, he decides to put it on autopilot and talk to the passengers. Arriving in the passenger compartment, he announces that the plane is going to crash. He tells the passengers that there are only 3 parachutes on board and that he is going to take one of them. With that said, he grabs one of the chutes and bails out of the ailing plane. The 3 remaining passengers look at each other and almost immediately one begins to speak.
I'm a CEO of 3 major companies. Many important projects worldwide are depending on me to manage them. I'm probably the smartest man on Earth, and therefore I deserve one of the parachutes.
He then picks up a parachute and leaps out of the airplane. The 2 remaining passengers, a priest and a Boy Scout, just look at each other. Then the priest begins to speak.
I am old and have lived most of my life. I'm confident of my future and not afraid to die. Please take the remaining chute and jump from the plane before it crashes.
The Boy Scout just smiles and says,
Don't worry, we're both gonna be okay. Remember that last guy, the smartest man in the world? He just jumped out of the plane holding my backpack!
One day, the Pope is visiting America and driving around Washington in his limo when he gets an idea.
Driver, I'd like to drive for a while,
says the Pope. Sure, replies the driver. So the Pope takes the wheel and starts driving the limo like a maniac all around Washington. Dodging in and out of traffic, going 80, cutting people off, driving over embankments and curbs. Suddenly, a cop pulls him over and walks towards the limo. When the Pope rolls down his window, the cop stops dead in his tracks. The cop then says,
Okay, buddy, have a nice day,
and goes back to his squad car.
We've got somebody really important here,
he says to his partner. Who is it, a senator?
No, more important.
The president?
No, more important.
An ambassador?
I actually don't know who it is,
the cop replies.
But the Pope is his frickin' chauffeur!
Billy Ray lines up his young sons and stands before them. With a stern look on his face, he asks,
All right, which one of y'all pushed the outhouse over the cliff?
Nobody answers. The boys just look around at each other, shuffling their feet and avoiding their father's gaze. He then asks again, a bit louder this time.
I said, who pushed the outhouse over the cliff?
Still not a peep from the boys. Billy Ray sighs and decides to try a different approach.
Let me tell y'all a story,
he says.
It's about George Washington and his daddy. Now, George chopped down a cherry tree, and when his daddy asked him about it, George, he told the truth. Because George told the truth, well, his daddy didn't punish him.
Then he looks at his boys meaningfully and says,
So I'm gonna ask again, who pushed the outhouse over the cliff?
Finally, the youngest son, barely able to meet his father's eyes, raises his hand and says,
I pushed the outhouse over the cliff.
Billy Ray, his face red with anger, says,
Okay then, you can clean the stalls while the rest of us go fishing.
Sniffling and wiping his eyes, the boy asks,
But Pa, when George Washington told the truth, he didn't get punished. Why did I get punished when I told the truth?
Ray shakes his head, takes a deep breath, and replies,
Because when George Washington chopped down the cherry tree, his daddy wasn't in it!
An explosion last week killed a wild-living Navy boilerman, and he found himself in hell. Being used to stoking fires and extremely hot temperatures, he found hell actually quite comfortable. When Satan went to check out the new arrival, he found him sitting in his room smiling.
You like this?
Satan asked. "Yes, sir," said the sailor. "This feels like a spring day to me." Not wanting the new guy to be too comfortable, Satan turned up the heat a bit. When he went back the next day to see how his new arrival was doing, the sailor was still happy. He hadn't even broken a sweat. "I like this kind of weather," he told Satan. For the next few days, Satan turned up the heat more and more, but each day the sailor looked as comfortable as ever. By Sunday, Satan decided to try something different. Rather than turn up the heat even more, he turned it off and turned on the air conditioning. Icicles formed in the sailor's room. When he checked on the guy, the room was icy and he was shivering, but he had a grin from ear to ear, bigger than ever. Satan was exasperated.
Why are you so happy?
He demanded from the sailor.
It's freezing in here.
Well, I'm from Boston, said the sailor. And evidently, the Red Sox just won the World Series. Little Johnny approaches his mother one day with a request that warms her heart.
Mom, can I have 50 cents?
Asks little Johnny. His mother asks,
Why do you need 50 cents, dear?
Johnny explains,
I want to give it to an old lady that I saw in the park today.
His mother is moved by her son's thoughtfulness and generosity. She quickly reaches into her purse and hands him the 50 cents, feeling proud of her son's kind gesture. As she gives him the coins, his mother says,
Here you go, darling. I'm curious. Can't the poor old lady work anymore?
Little Johnny takes the money with a bright smile and replies,
Oh, she can work all right. She sells candy in the park.
Dave lives on a farm in rural Georgia. One day, he gets a call from his friend Randy, who lives in Texas. Randy wants to visit Dave for a few days, so Dave goes to the airport to pick him up. As they drive back to the farm on a bumpy, dusty country road, a big rabbit suddenly runs across the road in front of Dave's pickup truck.
What was that?
Asks Randy.
Oh, that's a rabbit,
Says Dave. Randy shakes his head in disbelief.
A rabbit? In Texas, our rabbits are as big as that calf over there.
They continue driving a bit further when a hunting dog darts across the road chasing a raccoon. Randy asks,
What was that? That was a hunting dog,
replies Dave. Randy laughs.
A hunting dog? In Texas, our hunting dogs are as big as that cow over there.
A little while later, they see a large turtle slowly making its way across the road. Randy points and asks,
What is that?
Dave, without missing a beat, replies,
That's a tick.
Tom always found himself oversleeping, and consequently, he was continuously late for his job. This became such a problem that his boss gave him a stern warning, saying that if he didn't find a way to fix this habit, he would have no choice but to let him go. Feeling the pressure, Tom decided to seek medical advice. He made an appointment and went to see his doctor. After explaining his situation, the doctor thought for a moment and then handed him a small pill.
Take this just before you go to sleep,
The doctor instructed. That night, Tom did as the doctor advised. To his surprise, he slept wonderfully, and for the first time in a long while, he actually woke up before his alarm clock even had a chance to ring. Feeling refreshed and with plenty of time on his hands, Tom enjoyed a relaxed breakfast and had a very pleasant commute to his workplace. When he arrived, he eagerly approached his boss.
That pill my doctor gave me really did the trick.
That's fantastic,
His boss replied with a nod of approval. Then, with a puzzled look, his boss added,
But where were you yesterday?
A 67-year-old man and his grandson were riding on a bus heading downtown to go to the movies when a young punk girl got on. She had spiked, multicolored hair that was green, purple, and orange. Her clothes were a tattered mix of leather and rags, her legs were bare, and she was wearing worn-out shoes. Her entire face and body were riddled with pierced jewelry. She sat down in the only vacant seat that was directly across from the man. The man raised an eyebrow and stared at the girl. Finally, the girl got self-conscious and barked,
What are you looking at, you old fart? Didn't you ever do anything wild when you were young?
Without missing a beat, the man replied,
Yeah? Back when I was in the Navy, I got really drunk one night in Singapore and slept with a parrot. I thought maybe you were my daughter.
An amazing new supermarket opened in my neighborhood recently. It has an automatic water mister to keep the produce fresh. Just before it goes on, you hear the sound of distant thunder and the smell of fresh rain. When you pass the milk cases, you hear cows mooing and you experience the scent of freshly mowed hay. In the meat department, there is the aroma of charcoal grilled steaks with onions. When you approach the egg case, you hear hens cluck and cackle, and the air is filled with the pleasing aroma of bacon and eggs frying. The bread department features the tantalizing smell of freshly baked bread and cookies. But I don't buy toilet paper there anymore. A man was walking along a California beach and stumbled upon an old lamp. He picked it up, then rubbed it, and out popped a genie. The genie said,
Okay, you released me from the lamp, blah, blah, blah. This is the 4th time this month, and I'm getting a little sick of these wishes, so you can forget about 3. You only get 1 wish.
The man sat and thought about it for a while. Then he said,
I've always wanted to go to Hawaii, but I'm scared to fly, and I get very seasick. Could you build me a bridge to Hawaii so I could drive over there to visit?
The genie laughed and said,
That's impossible. Think of the logistics of that. How would the supports ever reach the bottom of the Pacific? Think of how much concrete and steel. No, think of another wish.
The man agreed and tried to think of a really good wish. Finally, he said,
I've been married and divorced 4 times. My wives always said that I don't care and that I'm insensitive. So, I wish that I could understand women and know how they feel inside and what they're thinking when they give me the silent treatment. Know why they're crying. Know what they really want when they say nothing. Know how to make them truly happy.
The genie then replied,
You want that bridge with 2 lanes or 4?